self-made millionaire Steve Siebold says anyone can hit life's jackpot.
Steve Siebold is a world-class expert on mental toughness training for increasing sales, developing people, and managing change. He's a best-selling author and popular television interview guest on mental toughness for building wealth, getting fit, and excelling in sports.
How does a rich person look at money? What do they see? They see
lots of it.
And just available out there in the universe?
It's everywhere, especially with the recession. We have total chaos in the economy all over the world, world economy.
So they see opportunity.
They see opportunity because there's all these problems. Because where there's chaos, there's opportunity to solve problems, to make money.
Someone said that the rich, having made a lot of money last year in the stock market and maybe some money in the housing market, the rich have an obligation to spend that money to help the economy. And you say?
Why? Why are they obligated? I mean, these people didn't make their money robbing banks. They made their money solving problems.
Because it would be good for the economy.
So is solving problems. I mean, do people want their problems solved or not? If they want their problems solved, you're going to have to look to the innovators, the job producers, the creators.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Steve Siebold.
Hey everyone, it's Steve Siebold. Welcome back to the Personal Development Podcast. I will be your host again today, and I've got a really special guest that really has had an amazing career, especially considering where he came from. And I've been following his career now for upwards of 20 years. And his name is Paul Hart. He's a financial marketing, financial education entrepreneur, self-made millionaire, very successful out of San Jose, California. And one of the interesting things about Paul is he started out as an auto mechanic in San Jose. And then at 24 years old, he had an encounter with a friend he went to school with in San Jose, and got him involved in financial marketing and just took off. And so we're here to hear some of his story, especially for you entrepreneurs that are struggling and thinking about, maybe going into business, or you're in business and you're struggling, or maybe you're doing really well. There's a lot we can learn from this gentleman. So I'm really excited to introduce my old friend and good friend, Mr. Paul Hart. Paul, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Steve. It's an honor. It's an honor.
Yeah, I appreciate you being on, because I know you guys are with GFI are running all over the country. I see the Instagrams and all the social media stuff with the private jet you guys are on, and doing all this 30-city tour you guys are on, huh?
Yeah.
Well, that's got to be exciting.
It is. It's a lot of work, but when you're loving what you're doing, it's not even work. We're excited.
That's right. Yeah. Well, it's amazing what you guys have done just in the last, what has it been, 8 or 9 months since GFI opened up, right? Something like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. It's incredible. Well, tell us how you got started, Paul. How'd you get started? And I know you met your old friend Eric Olson. You reconnected with him, and you got started that way. But how did this whole thing get going for you?
Well, it's a story about 20 years ago. I was kind of at an all-time low. I think, a lot of times people change when they hit rock bottom, and I was doing okay. I guess I was kind of known. I've had cars. I've had the things that people wanted when you're young and in your 20s and you're trying to impress everybody. And so I had a decent amount of quote unquote success. And then I just remember I was building a 1969 Pontiac GTO. I just love classic cars. I love building things myself, and it was stolen from me. And when it got stolen from me, I basically hit rock bottom. I had no more money. I had nothing. I couldn't really trust anybody, because I felt like the people that I trusted were some of the ones that were involved in taking it. And I just didn't know where I was going to go. And I hadn't seen Eric. I grew up with Eric. My mom used to run a little, because Eric, and my mom used to run a daycare at our home. And Eric was, we used to have sleepovers at my house, etc. But I hadn't seen him in many, many years, because I think, at the time when I was a senior in high school, he was a freshman, and we didn't hang out anymore at that age. And we bumped into each other downtown San Jose. Come to find out, he had hit a rock bottom in his life. I was too. We exchanged numbers, and he didn't call me. And I was so hungry at looking for something. I remember Tuesday came around. I didn't want to bother him, but I called him, and he said, "What do you got going on? We have a seminar." And I came on down to that meeting, and everybody told me, Steve, they said, "When did you make a decision that you were going to go for it?" And it was at that meeting. I had never seen anything like it before. It was a financial services business presentation meeting. I had never heard of the terms. I didn't know what mutual funds were, didn't know what annuities were. I knew that was something I needed to be learning. I was going to San Jose State University for digital art, digital animation. I just was told you're supposed to go to school, get good grades, get a good job. I just felt like I've always been an entrepreneur at heart, and I was just looking for something. And so thank goodness that happened to me where they took my car, because I don't believe that I would have been in the position to look for it, to be looking for something. Because when you think you're doing great, or when you think you're doing good, you don't go for great. And now I'm doing bad. And so I get into this presentation, and I was like, this is it. I've never heard of anything like this. If this is only half true, I am about to change my life. And Steve, I've been just about the jack of all trades, expert at none. I'm the kind of guy that I get good at something, get bored with it, do something else, get good at something, get bored at it, do something else. And it just kind of haunts you that you're not great at anything. And I remember saying, all right, I'm going to plant my flag. My semester for San Jose State was coming back up. I said, I'm going to put it off, and I'm going to give this an honest effort, because if this does not work out, I at least know in my heart I gave it everything I got, and it wasn't my calling. And I think when you put something and you put your heart into something, no pun intended, I gave it everything that I got, and all of a sudden stuff just started happening, and I never went back. So 20 years later, it's been the ride of a lifetime. And me and Eric were running mates, and we built this. He was 21 years old. I was 24. He was my mentor in the business at 21. And I could tell you, I couldn't have picked a better guy to kind of teach me, because look where we're at now. So it's been a blast. Wow,
it's an amazing origin story. I'll bet your parents were thrilled that you were leaving college to pursue this.
Well, I will tell you this. When I got in, Eric was like, hey, we have a bedroom at my house, an extra bedroom. Do you want to move in? And I realized your environment is everything. So I told my dad, and I said, Dad, I'm actually dropping out of college, and I'm going to move out and start a business. He knew Eric had started a business because our families talked. My mom was deceased at this point. So he knew that because where I was, I probably wasn't hanging around the greatest associations and probably going to head down the wrong track just because of where we grew up. And I told my dad, I said, hey, I'm moving out. And I was waiting for him to talk me out of into staying. And he said, do you need some help? And he started lifting stuff. I was like, all right, I guess I'm doing this. And because he knew Eric's family, he knew Eric, the kind of people they are, he knew it was going to be a good change in my life. And next thing you know, some of the people I moved in with became my best friends to this day. So, yeah.
Wow. So did you, when you got started, and I should say, for people that don't know who we're talking about when we say Eric, I should have probably started with this. We're talking about Eric Olson, the great financial marketer, financial education entrepreneur, one of the biggest in the history of the industry. I believe, and I imagine you believe as well, Paul, he'll be the biggest of all time at some point, but he certainly is one of the greats of all time right now. He's a relatively young guy. I think Eric is 40 or 41 or something like that, right? Yeah. He's he's sort of a force of, he is a force of nature, not sort of, but that's what we're referring to. And that's who Paul works with. So that said, Paul, what made you, let me ask you this first. So did it really take off for you? As I've seen you on stage speak about this, but I don't know if I've ever heard if did it jump out right away? Did you get really successful pretty fast, or were you still working a job, or?
No, so I quit everything. I quit every source of income that I had. I was doing side jobs as a mechanic, and you name it. I'm an artist, so I did a lot of stuff for people. And I cut off every source of income. And I remember it went back to that jack of all trades. People were calling, and I just declined the call. And I wanted to put my back against the wall and only generate an income from this opportunity. I had a little bit of reserves, so I was able to get my licenses. We had to get securities licenses and life insurance licenses and get everything in order. But so what I did was I basically worked this thing 7 days a week. I didn't even think it was work. I just felt like I was building my own. So I didn't make any money for 6 months. I didn't realize that I was supposed to have a license because nobody really told me. So I quit everything. I jumped in full time, and I didn't know it was going to take me 6 months to get my licenses. So did it take off right away financially? No. But as I was going to San Jose State for digital animation, was I a digital animator after 4 years? No. I wasn't at Pixar or anything like that. So 6 months to me was nothing, because most people go to college. If you become a doctor, how many years do you got to work or go to school before you get an income? So I looked at it, and people ask me all the time, You know, how did you do that for 6 months? And these are college students. I'm like, well, how are you doing it for all these years? And it just made sense to me. But what I did do was I understood the idea of building a team and building a business. I remember when I was working as a mechanic, I used to always, I knew it was a chain and there was a lot of locations, and I just always visualized the owners getting paid off of every single location in every store all across California. And I had never met them and they were never there. And I was just like, how do I get that job? Why am I the ones breathing in these chemicals and asbestos, you know, in this garage, and these people are doing something else? So I understood the power of building a team. I think I had a little bit of associations where people knew that I was pretty motivated. So I started right away building my agency and building the personnel and building the team. So with that, it took off right away. And here's one thing. This is the reason that I believe my parents were, my dad was excited, because he's seen me happy. I think at the end of the day, regardless of what it was, he's seen me happy. So he allowed me to do that and supported me. And I think a lot of my friends, they knew that I was not a employee type. They knew that I don't like working for other people. It's just not something I feel like I'm getting paid what I'm worth. So when they seen me do this, and I was actually passionate, and I didn't know the scripts, I just knew why I was saying what I was saying. I didn't know what I was doing exactly. I just knew why I was doing what I was doing. And that alone, that excitement, that energy, whatever vibration I was giving off, attracted everybody to come see what I was doing. And I built an agency pretty quickly that basically built up. So when I got my license, it created that immediate success after I got my license. So in a way, yes, and in a way, no. But as I look back, I honestly don't even consider that struggle. I consider that part of the process. You know, when you're a baby and you're crawling, it's part of the process to learn how to walk. And walking is part of the process of learning how to run. So is a baby struggling by crawling? No, you know, it's just part of it. And I loved every bit of it. I would not be where I'm at right now. I wouldn't have developed the character and the vision that I have right now if it wasn't for those first 6 months. So,
wow. Did you believe at that time, Paul, that you'd ever succeed at this level that you're at now?
No, not even close. I remember they were showing like you could make a 6-figure income and on the presentation. And I had never even entertained the idea of making 6 figures. I didn't even think that was it wasn't even in my vocabulary. 10,000 a month. I was like, what would anybody ever do with all that money is what I thought. My vision was so small that I basically thought if I could figure out a way to not have a boss, I could make 5,000 a month or 50,000 a year was my mindset. I basically could replace my highest year, not have a boss. I could move out of my dad's house. I can get a little apartment and I could be free. And so the one thing I was shooting for, Steve, which I didn't really quantify it, I didn't know what it was. I wanted to be free. That's all I really wanted. And if I got to drive a used car and rent, but I'm free, I'm gonna be happier than if I drive something and I'm owned, you know, and I'm not free. So I fought for that. I did not believe I was going to do this, but I believe what the worst thing is going to come out of this. I'm going to get a financial education. I'm going to learn more. It's going to improve my life because I felt like I was going through so many things at school that I'm learning that I'm never going to use in my life. But when it comes to money, the one thing that I'm going to use, I'm not learning anything about. So I figured this was going to be another class, but a class that's actually tangible that I can use in my life. And what I ended up finding out as I started to pursue it, nobody knew this stuff. I thought if you had a Mercedes Benz, you were wealthy. I thought if you had a nice grass cut in the front yard, you were wealthy. Come to find out, nobody knew this. And then the supply demand kind of light bulb went off. And I said, wow, everything that they told me about what people need is true. I'm seeing it in the marketplace. And that's when the entrepreneur came out of me and we went after it. So that's how it happened.
Well, you know, and you're so right, Paul. When I've sent so many guys to you guys in your previous organization and the new organization, and I always tell them the worst thing you can possibly do. I mean, you may end up being an Eric Olson or a Paul Hart, or maybe it won't be. But the one thing you will get for sure if you hang in there is a financial education. You probably won't get anywhere else. I mean, it's amazing what you guys teach people about all the things, some of the things you mentioned before, life insurance, annuities, overfunding contracts, things that hardly anyone knows except people in the financial business, right?
Right. And mostly the mindset behind it. Like there's so many people that have accounts, but they don't have the wealth building mindset. So they're going to the 49ers game, they're going to the Raiders game, they're doing all this stuff and not investing. So I think you got to have a wealth mentality. It's not just the account. You also got to have that abundance mentality and then understand priorities and saving money. But you're right, 100%. And it just makes, I'm a logical person. It made a lot of sense to me. Like, why not learn this? My dad worked at Stanford and never really learned any of these things, so he couldn't teach me. So there was no risk at all in getting started here. And
yeah. What did you really have to lose, I guess, in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
How about financially, Paul, as you were building the thing? So a lot of entrepreneurs watch this podcast, and I mean, the struggle. We've both been entrepreneurs. We know how that fight goes. Tell us a little bit about the financial struggle to get this thing off the ground for you.
Well, I basically had a little bit of money, got my licenses, started renting an office, and I just started learning it. I just kind of immersed myself in it. And basically, I lived below my means. By the way, as a good financial professional, I didn't realize I'm practicing what I want my clients to do. So I basically was trying to save everything I could. My dad grew up in the Depression era, so he was a very good saver. Jim Crow South, kind of held on to everything that he had. We had this room in the house where everything was just junk, and you couldn't throw that one thing away because one day he might need it, but I think I had a little bit of that. So I had a scarcity mentality, but I held on to a lot of things. And I just started investing. I invested into my office. I invested into my licenses. I invested into self-development, all these books behind me. One of my favorite books of all time, and I'm not just saying it, everybody knows, is 177 Mental Toughness Secrets of the World Class. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on this podcast, but anytime anybody ever asked me, because I became known as the person about self-development, because I was 180 degrees about face of where I have to be a successful entrepreneur, because I was kind of rough around the edges, dirt under my fingernails, blue collar. And so I invested into these books behind me. I read. And when anybody ever asked me, what are the books that what is one of the major books you would recommend? I recommend your book all the time. You can ask anybody. We even read it in our full-timers meetings to our agents, and chapter by chapter, and have them read it, and they can vouch for it. So you've been that instrumental in our success. But when it comes to financially, I just invested into myself, and I invested into my team. And I seen Eric and a lot of the other people, they would invest, they would spend money, but it wasn't an expense, it was an investment. And I knew there was going to be a return that was going to come out of that, because they can't take this away. So I invested into my skill set, seminars, countless seminars. And I believe when you make enough deposits into yourself, you can then begin to make the withdrawals. And now it's just starting to flow from all the self-development. But yeah, that's really what it was. And thank goodness this industry, all you do is need a state license, and you don't got to buy a brick and mortar building. You don't got to buy a lot of inventory. It's very inexpensive to get started. Got my license, and then I just ripped and ran. So what I realized was, as I was building momentum, that all of these things were just an investment, and I was going to get it back tenfold. So again, I go back to, I never really looked at it as like a struggle. It was just part of the process. And I just feel like everything was going to come full circle. So that was me. I even got my licenses before Eric did, because somebody told me to. And I remember when I really came to the crosshairs of financial struggle, because my bank account was running on fumes, my license was issued by the state. And I wrote 17 accounts my very first month, 17 accounts my second month, and I have never not made income ever since I got my license. And I tell everybody, what was it? It was all the exposure and appointments and experience I got before I got my license that allowed me to succeed right when I got it. So that was it. And I wouldn't have done it any other way. I found when my back's against the wall, I fight. If I had a job, here's the thing, Steve, if I wasn't kind of struggling financially, if I didn't kind of run on fumes, if I had a job or other sources of income, I was pushing deny on my side jobs because I wanted to put my back against the wall. I wouldn't have attacked. And I think when your back's against the wall and you got nowhere else to run but forward, you're going to run forward. And if you got a couple of steps to take back, you'll take a couple steps back. So I basically threw my back against the wall, attacked, and we started winning. And, and that's kind of how it happened. And we took off. And funny, I ended up making $125,000 9 months after I got my license. Never even knew that I could make six figures. And
wow.
Once I did it, I was like, whoa, people need to know about this. Nobody even knows about this. So that's what happened. And then all of a sudden I found out about the IRS and a whole Nobody, you're making this money. That became another struggle.
You don't get all that, it turns out. Yeah.
Learn that. We figured that out the hard way, but that's another chapter.
It's a gutsy beginning to burn the boats, as they say, right? And put your back against the wall. And good for you. The 9 months after you got your license, 120. That's amazing. That's 20 years ago. I mean, it's a lot of money now, but it's more money then. You know, it's how did your family react to your success, Paul? What was and your friends around you? Did they all react the same way, or?
I think they reacted kind of the way somebody reacts to a workout plan in January, in a way. Like they get excited for about a week and then all of a sudden real life hits them and it's going to be work. So I think a lot of people supported me initially. And then when I turned around and the dust settled, I was the only one standing. And then I brought a few more people. And then when the dust settled, I was the only one standing. And I'm kind of, other than my mentors and the people that were around me helping me, I felt that everybody's kind of supported me. My family, I come from an amazing family. We're very supportive. They always encouraged me. Nobody ever discouraged me. By the way, I think people will discourage you if you allow them to. But once they realize that you're not going to accept that when they're in your presence and they want you in their presence, they're going to stop that. You teach people how to treat you. So I nipped a lot of the negativity on early on, but I realized that maybe we had different visions. And that's just the way it had to align. I had to align with different people. I still have not forgot where I came from. I still love everybody. But I'll tell you, this is what I heard all the time, Steve. When you start making money, then I'm going to. When you start doing this, ... How is it going for you? And let me kind of paint the picture 20 years later. They're still not here. Because now there's another excuse. Oh, we always knew you can do it. Oh, man, you're a good talker. I was not a good talker. I was scared. I'm a very introverted person. I like machines. I could spend days by myself working on a car, working on art. Nobody's around me. Speaking in public was one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever had to do. I love it now, at least in this space. But I had to get out of my comfort zone. Recruiting people when I'm not making any money was very uncomfortable. Remember, I said my team was exploding right away, and I'm selling a vision. I'm not selling where I'm at. I'm driving a beat-up car, selling a vision, talking about all this money you can make, and people are asking me, how much have you made? And I haven't made anything yet. So everything that was uncomfortable made me who I am. But I will say this, hardly any of them are clients, if any of them. Some of my family they've supported me, but most people did not do what I thought they were going to do. They didn't do for me what I would have done for them. I would have backed them up and gave them I haven't gotten any referrals hardly from anybody over 20 years.
To this day, they still don't give you referrals.
To this day, I think what ends up happening now, it's kind of an embarrassment. I felt like in the beginning when you're an entrepreneur and people aren't following your vision, they're kind of waiting for you to fail so that they can say they told you so. And when they started dropping off and quitting and not pursuing their license, they were waiting for me to quit because misery loves company in a way, right? And I was not going to give them that because I felt like if I ever quit, because at first back in their days, like they were thinking it was a scam and you could never make that kind of money. To me, it was never a scam because you got to get a government license and pass a background check. But I guess common sense isn't very common, right? But they were saying it was a scam. And I said, all right, so if I quit, you're going to say I told you so. And then everything you said was true. I really was trying to scam you. I'm not going to let you go to sleep at night, and I'm not going to let you take that to your grave that I really did try to scam you. I'm going to prove you wrong. And I'm the kind of guy that proved them wrong. And for the rest, I guess, of everybody's life, they got to kind of say, dang, I was wrong. So I was not the wrong one. And I ended up showing them a good thing. I was showing them something that was going to be productive in their life. And I think a lot of people now, it's kind of ego now that prevents them because the male ego is pretty powerful,
Right.
So
It's always interesting the way people, after interviewing entrepreneurs like yourself, for 40 years, there's always a story about friends and family once, when you're struggling, it seems like, and then once you succeed, and it's just a weird, unless they're really successful, there seems to be a lot of tension, both like you say, when you start in the beginning, and then they go quiet when you get successful. It's it's interesting, I've
had a couple ask for donations, and I said, I got something even better. I'll show you how to double your donation. Come get a license and work with me. And then
exactly.
you never hear from them again.
Yeah, exactly. That sort of shuts that whole thing down. That's a good strategy, actually. Well, was there any kind of any behavior or belief that you had to sort of let go of, or when you as you moved from being an auto mechanic and a college student, and all of a sudden you're pursuing this, and you're struggling in the beginning like we all do, but was there a belief or behavior you had to eliminate or get rid of to succeed?
Yeah. I would say almost one of feeling like I'm lucky. Like I always feel like, am I lucky? Because I feel like I got bad luck, or in a way. But when I started having success, I started feeling like I'm lucky. When I passed my test, I felt like I was lucky. When I started making those sales in the beginning, I started feeling like I was lucky, because I noticed that not everybody else was doing that. And the reason not everybody else was doing that, they weren't doing behind the scenes what I did to prepare myself to be able to do that. But everybody acted like they were. Everybody looks the same. They come to the same meetings. They look like they're taking notes. What do you do with the notepad when you leave? And so I didn't really realize that, but I was not lucky. Hard luck is when, or luck is when hard work and preparation meet opportunity. So I had the opportunity that was in front of me, and I put in a lot of work, learning the words, learning the skills. I didn't expect anybody else to do anything for me, but I just had this cloud like, am I lucky? Am I lucky? Like, am I going to wait? Is this a dream? And I think that's that scarcity mentality, that poverty mentality that I had to break away from. And I remember when I first came in and I started having that success, people were like, oh, it's because you grew up in San Jose and you had a market and you knew people, you're lucky. Although they didn't really know the truth of it all. And then what I ended up, I met this gentleman who was like, 40 something. He's at the age that I am now when I was in my 20s, and he was a minister at a church and had a ton of credibility. And he just blew my business up. And everybody was like, oh, you found so-and-so, you're lucky. And then I remember I had somebody else that I found, and this lady just came in and started recruiting all kind of people and blew my business up again. And they said, hey, Paul, you're lucky. And I started really feeling like, am I? And I just wanted to work myself through the luck so I could prove to myself I wasn't lucky. And then I met my wife in the business, who was my wife now. And we formulated a power couple scenario, and we both attacked this thing and attracted a lot of couples. And people were like, you're lucky. You got a spouse that wants to fight with you. And I had to really step back out of all these instances of quote unquote luck and realize lightning doesn't strike in the same place 10 times. I got to start giving myself some credit that I'm the one earning all this stuff through my hard work and preparation. And so I just had to shed the skin of my old me. I'm doing it again as we're here in this company, GFI. I know what my capabilities were. I know kind of what happened before. And I think every level has another devil, as they say. And I'm shedding the skin of the old Paul. I'm making more now, having more success than I've ever had in my life. And how am I blasting through the identity of who I was in January or December? I'm working harder than I've ever worked in my life while I'm making more than I've ever made in my life. And I would give a recommendation to anybody out there to blast through to that next level, so that you're not lucky, so that you don't, because I don't want to feel guilty. I don't want to see the world of struggle and homelessness and all this poverty, and then I'm walking around feeling like I'm lucky. And I think I got to the place where, and I'm guilty. And I think I got to the place where I realized, dang it, I earned this. I put in the sleepless nights. I woke up early. I read the books nobody else was willing to read. I took the rejection nobody else was willing to take. And I got up with a smile on my face. I've had people stab me in my back. I've had people do it all. And I'm the one that comes out ahead because I'm the one that controls my destiny. So I no longer realize I'm lucky. And I had to fight what's called my previous identity of middle class, working class, to become the identity of the world class, like you talk about, Steve.
That's interesting. That's an interesting take on, feeling like you kind of got lucky. But you're right. Again, 40 years of interviews with self-made millionaires, that's something people say as soon as you succeed, well, they just got lucky. And then it's interesting. There's always a new take they have on your failure or your success. It's crazy. Well, you mentioned your new company, GFI, and I knew you would go with Eric. I sure felt like you would. And I was so glad that when Eric told me that you did. So GFI, for people that don't know, is Global Financial Impacts. It's a company that Paul is involved with, and Eric Olson and a bunch of really great entrepreneurs out of California. And you guys are working all over the world. So tell us a little bit about GFI, if you would, and the work you guys are doing there.
Well, it's amazing. I think it's in our space, the financial and insurance space. I feel like we're making this industry great again. When you think about an insurance agent, we're going to make this attractive. Like Tiger Woods, I think, did the golf and made it a young man's sport and a fun sport. And you could wear all these colors and you can go out there and do all these things that people now, they've created a lot of attraction. I think we're going to do it with the insurance and financial services space. When you think about the typical insurance agent, you probably don't think about us. You probably don't think about me. You probably don't think about a young person, entrepreneurs, I remember growing up, we would see the baseball players, the basketball players, the football players, the entertainers, the rappers. They had the life that I wanted to have. The reason I wanted to be a baseball player, basketball player, football player, and a rapper, not because I was passionate of running with a ball through lines or hitting a ball with a wooden stick. It was everything that came along with it that I think these young folks aspire to become, signing autographs, the MTV Cribs life, the beautiful wife, etc. And I, when I came into the industry 20 years ago, I had a gentleman that I admired that I think provided that for us. And what we want to do is pay it forward and do that for others and make this industry an amazing, attractive industry, because so many people don't even entertain it or even look at it. And I think it's one of the most the greatest hidden gem in the brokerage industry you can find is the insurance industry. And so with that said, what we're doing with GFI is we're a company in the IMO space. So we're not set up like every other company. We're a builder's company. We're more of an entrepreneurial endeavor in the largest, most lucrative industry in the world. And I'm pretty proud to say, this industry has produced more millionaires than any other industry out there. So that was another reason why I was like, if I have a shot at being a millionaire, the best shot I'm going to have is be here. And so we've created a platform now that makes it very attractive, built by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. We speak that language that the entrepreneurs want to hear. There is no corporate bureaucracy. There is no red tape. We're not going to allow that to affect us. We're about the agents. We're about the people. And I could say that from the top down. It's all about the benefit of the people, the agents, because we're going to take this thing global. We're not just taking insurance. We're taking our environment global, our culture global, our coaching global, all the stuff that we bring. And it's going amazing. Our people now, I remember a long time ago, I used to ask my dad, I remember asking him, what do you want for Christmas? And he said, I don't want anything. My present is watching your eyes light up when you open up your presents. And I was a little kid at the time, but it sticks to me to this day. Why? Because now I'm a dad and even a grandpa now, right? And I'm like, man, I know exactly what my dad meant now. It's not even about us. It's about helping everybody else achieve abundance and success. I have people now, Steve, in 1 month, they surpassed their annual income last year. I got people making 6 figures per month in my business. I got people out earning me in my own team. Wow. And I'm so excited. And I just see everybody is electric. Their eyes are wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, and everybody's happy. And it's like they got their second wind back. And even if they weren't making the big money, the fact that they're happy, the fact that they for some reason, it was like there was a cloud covering them before. They almost had like this karma that was against them. And I could just see it's gotten released. And to see the smiles on everybody's faces and everything is just, I didn't even know when I signed up 20 years ago that this was the experience that I was going to enjoy. We want to build a company where retirement isn't even something we want to do. What else would we do? And so it's going great. We thought it's going better than we ever thought, faster than we ever thought. But I could say we don't have a losing bone in our body. Winning is our habit, and can't say it's unexpected that we're winning at all.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, what is it, do you think, about GFI that's growing? I don't know if a financial marketing organization has ever grown this fast. I've never seen it in the last 20 years I've been around as a vendor to the industry. Is it the fastest ever in terms of, because you guys have been around for what, 10 months or something, and you're over 23,000 associates, I think. Is that about accurate? Or
yeah, I might check right now. We're already surpassed that for all I know. You're right. I guess they would say we're the fastest growing. I think we got more in us. I think we can grow even faster. We're frustrated with the growth. We got way more in us still, right? So we kind of got our blinders on, but I am hearing that we are one of the faster growing ones. What's the difference? Nobody's retired here. Nobody's for sale. Nobody's bought by the money. You can't pay us to start to retire and give up on the people that we've led. We led our people over here. We took a risk. They're taking a risk. The last thing we're going to do is sit back and override and say, go sick them. So from the top down, everybody's fully engaged, 100%. And as we're onboarding a lot of people from other agencies and other industries, the number one common thread from big income earners to small income earners, the number one thing, and I've heard this before as well, what are they lacking? Leadership. My leader's not hungry anymore. My leader's not in the race anymore. My leader's not in the trenches anymore. My leader just comes by and says speeches. By the way, that was me before. I'm not even saying that wasn't me. I'm just so excited that that's not me. I knew I never wanted to be that guy that just was a used to be, said what I used to do. I wanted to be relevant today. So I believe our company is a verb. Everybody is acting. One of the other things too is obsession. There was another company I met with one time and they were trying to compare the comp plan. I was like, we produced, I don't even say we, but Eric and his hierarchy, regardless of the comp plan, it didn't even matter. We produced more successful people than all these other companies out there before what we were doing, maybe when it was an inferior comp plan. And I didn't even care. It was the greatest thing I had ever seen. Why was that? Leadership. When Eric was 21 years old, the stuff that he's saying back then is the same stuff he's saying now. He's like anointed with some kind of a vision to be able to, like you said, I think if he drop him into Amazon, he'll build a team of people. And I think I heard you say that one time.
Yeah.
And so we have this great example. Hats off to Art Williams out there. If he ever sees or hears us, I mean, you're our idol. We want to stand on your shoulders and kind of continue with the legacy that you've built and made us proud. And I feel like we found Art and Angela 2.0 with Eric and Sandra Olson. And it's just a force of nature. You can't really experience it. So with everybody involved, winning the right collective energy. And by the way, when all of us are masterminding and we're all it's becoming a prayer. It's like everybody here is engaged at the same speed, the same focus, the same everything. Everybody's positive. Everybody's happy. We're lifting for the brand. We're writing for the brand of GFI to become the greatest, the builder's paradise, the greatest IMO the industry has ever seen, led by the greatest leaders the industry has ever seen. And I would say, you know, there's no playbook comp plan that you can replicate because you can't replicate obsession. And when somebody's obsessed, get out of their way. And that's what we got from the top down. That's what makes us different.
It's interesting, you know, when I spoke to Eric, I don't know, maybe a year ago or whenever, he was kind of, you know, looking at making a transformation, and we were on the phone for, I don't know, an hour or something. We were getting hyped up, and my wife said, "Just who were you on the phone with?" And I said, it was Eric Olson. And she said, "Well, what do you have to say?" I said, "Rambo's starting his own company." I said, "It's all over. He's going to take over." And, you know, interesting enough, and I know you know this for people that are watching this, one of the interesting things he said, because he was kind of weighing things out, as you know, and I know you know the story better than I do even, but he was just telling me, because he was in the middle of it, we were talking about it, going back and forth. And I said, you know, because he was trying to make the decision. And I said, you know, Eric, I said, when you build this thing up, obviously, if you do this, you guys are going to build. You got Paul, you got leadership. You know, you guys are great at what you're doing. You know, all, like you said, it's a comp plan built by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs, different than a lot of companies and that kind of thing. I said, so when you build this thing into a Goliath, are you going to do what Patrick Bet-David did, you know, who we all know, have known for years, and sold his company for, you know, whatever it was, a couple $100 million or whatever it was. And I says, are you going to do what Pat did or Patrick did? Or are you going to, what's your take? Is how much money how many yachts can you water ski behind? I was giving him a hard time. And he said, no. I go, what are you going to do? Like buy an island or something? He goes, no, we're going to build it bigger. Yeah. And I said, you're going to build how big? He goes, we're going to build as big as we can possibly build. He goes, I don't want to. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Retire? He goes, no, I don't want to sell it. I want to build it bigger. And that's when I knew it was over. I thought, oh boy, he's because, you know, as you know, I mean, like you said, he's a force of nature, and you guys are. I mean, every time I'd go to your office in California and San Jose over the years, it was like the energy you guys had in that, you know, there were like 1,000 people in that office at times I was there. And I think it held about 900. But the energy was just, it was palpable. It was just, you know, and when Eric came down to Atlanta we did an interview together 6-8 months ago, whatever it was. And we spent a day together just talking about all this as you guys were getting started. I think it was in March or whatever. And I was so jacked up, you know, after talking to Eric for a whole day, you know, that I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be, what a wonderful thing you guys are going to do for so many families. And, it's just exciting what you guys are doing. And then to see the unbelievable success you guys have had the last 8 or 10 months I've just been thrilled as a fan of you guys, just being on the side, watching it like a cheerleader and just loving all the calls I've gotten from people. I said, don't bet against these guys. It's a bad bet. They're going to win. They're going to pass everyone in this industry. And I believe that wholeheartedly. And you guys, of course, are proving it.
Thank you for that. No, and you know what we know. Like nobody here has a losing bone in their body. We don't even know what losing's like. We've lost before, but it's such a distant memory that we just know how to win, and that's all we know. And we're gonna go win. And that is Eric. He's not gonna retire. We're the top of the company down, and now we're bringing the best in the industry. Eric's the kind of guy that will give you a shirt off of his back. We're really about the people. We want to be known as create the most wealthiest people in this industry that's ever been done, create the most successful people. So there's a passion to build leaders, not to lead followers, but we want to build leaders. And then when the time capsule is opened one day for our kids and grandkids, they could say, man, that was my dad. That was my grandfather. I can't believe they made such an impact. And we want to give them something to aspire to be themselves. So it's way more than money. We're working even harder, even though we're financially free, because it's about making a difference. And guess what? This is our shot. We're now bringing something with technology now that we've never done before. I hail from the Silicon Valley. I've been in a tidal wave and never got wet. All these people created startups and took them public and created a lot of wealth. And I just watched it happen. And Eric was like, we're going to do that with our space and what we know. And one of our other secret sauces, I think, and it's trademarked, is called the 5 Fs. It really, really, really is serious. It's crazy how it works. But faith, keeping your priorities in order, your faith first. We're a faith-based company. Your family, your finances, fitness, and fun. And what we find is we want to enrich all areas of your life. Like when your marriage isn't right or your family life isn't right with your kids, something's missing in your life, in your spirit of well-being. And the same with your you've seen Eric's been an example of getting in better shape so he could sustain the pace that he's on right now. And you've probably seen that. So we got a leader that leads by example. And it inspires all of us to become better, because if he's doing it and he's outworking us and he's already where he is, what's our excuse? And I think we got to pay that forward to our team. So that's our secret. The 5 Fs is the real deal, though. When we sit with people, we're like, which one is missing? We got marriage retreats, we got spiritual retreats, we got people praying over us, we got workout programs, and of course, we got the business. When all that's in an area, I think you're going to be truly fulfilled, because at the end of the day, what are we all looking for? We're trying to be happy, and I think when we really tighten up those 5 Fs in all of our lives, which is what we're about, you're going to have true fulfillment. And that's our unique proposition. It's more than just insurance to us. It's more than insurance. People say it's that insurance thing. This is more than insurance. I promise if you come in here, you're going to know it's more than insurance. We're in the industry, but not really of the industry. We're built different, and this means something to us. So we're not your typical insurance company. Just know that. So that's us.
Well, you guys have definitely stacked the deck, and I think one of the smart things, one of the things that you guys have done early is you got Greg Capp involved, and now he's the president or CEO, I believe.
No, he's the agency chairman.
Oh, agent chairman. That's right, agency chairman. So what effect has Greg had on the organization in this early stage?
Well, one, if anybody knows Greg, you already know Greg is as pure as they come. And I think the fact that people see Greg with us, hopefully you understand what that means about us. That was a big shock, and I think a lot of people seen that. Greg's always been. He's like the spiritual mentor. I've never met anybody who has the energy that he has at 75 years old. And he
walked away from a lot of money to do this, right?
Everybody he took a risk.
And all you guys did, but yeah.
No, he took a big risk because, but you know what his company is about? It's about loyalty. It's about people that got our backs. It wasn't really about, we know we could build this thing. You could take everything away. They know who the real leaders are in this industry. They know who the real ones are that aren't going to sell anybody or anything like that or hurt anybody. They know who we are. So we feel like you could take it all away. It'll come all back. But when Greg came, by the way, this is just one little thing about Greg. He's just always go, go, go. And he's matched with Eric, but at 75 years old. And I guess he was feeling a little bit bad. And ended up having a heart attack or something of that line, and then got rushed to the hospital and found out he had a bunch of arteries clogged and had to have a sextuple bypass. Sextuple, that's 6 bypass. That guy bounced back on all the tours already, speaking in front of everybody, high energy, the old gray Capp. The guy's just anointed. He's got a calling as a spiritual mentor to pray over our organization and our people. And he does that. And he's just a very unique guy. He's just a very unique guy. And we appreciate Greg's loyalty from the day I met him. I remember Greg, and I picked him up, and I was so embarrassed. I had to pick him up from the airport like 19 years ago in my beat up car. And he's just a humble guy that's, I don't know, he's just always there for you. So I think that's just an example. If anybody knows Greg, to see him at the top of our company, you already know what we're about. So
yeah, I thought that was a very smart move. I was really pleased to hear that you guys brought Greg on. He's a great guy, and he's been in the industry so long. He's a leader, and of course a great entrepreneur. And along those lines, what would you say, just in general now, in terms of being an entrepreneur? What does it really take, do you think, for someone to become an entrepreneur, especially if they have to move from being an employee first?
Yeah, well, I always talk about the employee mindset. There's a different mindset. You got to realize, like, there's no 1 hour seminar that's going to erase all the programming that's been put into our head. And so we got to realize that. And so I don't know I believe kids are born thinking big, and then the world conditions us to think small. Because when I realized the real thing, when I started interviewing people, I started to realize what this business was really about. And it wasn't about the products. You can give somebody a Ferrari, but if they put bad gas in it and never change the oil, they don't really understand it's the mindset, right? You can have them in the greatest country, have them in California, have them in the Bay Area, have them in San Jose, the land that's produced so many wealthy people out of here, and then they're struggling. And what's the difference? It's all the mindset. And so I just really took it upon me to figure out, why is it that people think this way? I used to blame myself. I used to say, did I do my interview wrong? Did I explain the comp plan wrong? We'd show them all the comp. We'd show them the travel. We'd show them, you can have this, you can do that. And people would say, I want to think about it. And I realized there's a big thing about the real enemy we're against is this employee mindset, and since the Industrial Revolution is where they created these systems that design people to learn the 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, weekends off. And that's what we're up against. We're battling that. So for everybody out there, you got to shift your mindset. You got to surround yourself with entrepreneurs, business owners. Business people think a specific way. Employees think a specific way. We talk about, it's miserable Monday or hump day Wednesday, or thank God it's Friday. And then let's not talk about work on the weekends. One of my trademarks on my YouTube is business athlete. Athletes are still dribbling a ball even in the off season. They're still lifting weights even in the off season. This isn't what we do. It's who we are. When you own something, it's different, right? You're not babysitting the kids. These are your children. You treat them differently. So when you own something, you treat something differently than if you rent it. We don't change the oil in a rental car. We don't wash a rental car before we turn it in, right? So come into entrepreneurial, even if you're not really owning it, treat it like you own it. So some of the things is mentorship. You got to have a mentor. One of the root words of mentor is mental. The mentor is not supposed to do anything for you. They're supposed to screw your head on straight. So when you're thinking the wrong way, maybe relapsing to the employee mindset, they bring you back over to the entrepreneur mindset. You got to be willing to persevere. You got to persevere. You got to realize there's going to be some stoplights, some red lights, some yellow lights, some about faces, some detours due to construction. It's never going to be a straight line, but as long as you know where you're going, you're going to get there. If you just keep running, as long as you keep running, you'll get to where you're trying to go. Another thing would be mental toughness. If you ever want to learn how to be mental tough, get Steve Siebold's 177 mental toughness secrets of the world class. You got to be mentally tough. How do you become mentally tough? By overcoming adversity. We've overcome so much adversity as we look back. See, there's I think it was T. Harv Eker who said there's no such thing as big problems. There's only small people. Problems are always going to come our way, but when we start developing ourselves, next thing you know, you grow above the problem. The things that you used to see as a challenge or a stumbling block is just a temporary situation. So welcome adversity. Welcome it, because you're going to develop a track record of you're able to overcome adversity every chance you get. So mentally tough, leadership, mastering the art of leadership. John Maxwell has been a huge instrument in our life and really kind of quantifying what leadership really means and duplicating it, being around like-minded associations. And I always say, to be an entrepreneur, you got to be willing to put in the work that nobody else is willing to put in, so that you can have the life that nobody else will have. Outwork everybody, out-strategize everybody, watch the game film on the competition. When everybody else is tired, keep dribbling the ball, because you got to shift your identity to start to believe you're going to build a business. You got to start to believe you deserve to have wealth. You deserve to have agents. You deserve to have clients. And if you're an honest person and you know you're not putting in the work, if you ever work, it's going to look like it's theft, right? And when you're a good, honest person, you're not a thief. So why would you feel like you deserve to get clients when you haven't put in the work to get clients? Why would you feel like you deserve to have great agents on your team when you haven't put in the work or the wealth? And so I think a lot of people self-sabotage themselves. But when you put in that work behind the scenes, it's literally when nobody's watching is when that work gets put in. You become a successful entrepreneur when you're doing the things after hours when nobody's watching. Whenever you want people to say things like, "Are you losing weight?" There's certain things you want people to say. And when you're an entrepreneur, you kind of want people to say, "You work too hard." It's a compliment. It's a compliment because you're doing something that you believe in that's going to change the world. So it's a different mindset. Study it. You can follow me on certain areas, but start to detox yourself from the employee mindset, because you were not born like that. When you were a kid, you asked a million times to get that cookie. Any way that you had to, you were the greatest salesperson in the world. Even when you were a baby, you didn't even have a language, but you knew exactly how to get what you want, and you knew exactly how to communicate. And as I interview people now, I found out we've lost that. And we've been taught to go work for somebody else, put our heads down, realize we're not getting ahead. We're getting sicker, we're getting poorer, and we're making everybody else wealthy. Let's wake everybody up. And that's my passion. It's really not insurance. It's about waking people up to realize who they truly are. So that would be my rant on that.
I love that. That's a great rant. I agree with 100% everything you said. Just before I forget, Paul, how can people start to follow? You said you had a YouTube channel. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, well, on LinkedIn, how we connected, Steve, I'm Paul Hart on LinkedIn. I don't really use LinkedIn, so I want to get better on that. On Instagram, I'm at Paul J. Hart. That's H-A-R-T, at Paul J. Hart. My YouTube channel is The Business Athlete, BIZNESS Athlete. I'm basically on Instagram most of the time, but reach out in my DMs at Paul J. Hart on Instagram or on LinkedIn and say, you know what, I want to learn a little bit more. I'm personally interviewing everybody myself. I'm not sticking people into a group presentation. I want to meet the people that are coming into GFI. We're vetting people. We take this company serious. And if you have a heart to serve others, you have a heart to learn, you want to grow, you want to do better, and you got a story you want to bring to people to inspire others' lives, I'll meet with you face to face myself. So that's how you can find me.
That's a big deal. So what if someone is not in California or San Jose area where you are? Do you do it on Zoom like this, or how does that work, Paul?
Almost everybody right now is not in San Jose. So we're all on Zoom. We have offices and locations everywhere. Ever since the pandemic, it's just been a great experience because we homeschool our kids, right? I got scared of this educational system, right? We homeschool our kids. I don't got to leave my family. I can click a button. I was just in Utah this morning, and then I was in Texas, and I had breakfast cooking for my kids. So it's such a great experience. We have such a big reach now. You don't have to commute to come to a meeting and leave your family. And yes, I'd be willing to hop on Zoom, have a conversation with you. As long as you're a good person, as long as you want to do good things for people, I would love to get to know who you are, because I was you 20 years ago. Thank goodness they didn't realize I didn't have any money. I don't even care how much money you have. I care how much heart you have. And that's really what matters, because somebody cared about me a long time ago, and I'm going to pay that forward. So, yep, we're on Zoom. We're virtual. We're finally figuring out this technology thing, Steve.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's a whole new world, Paul, I'll tell you. Do you really believe that anyone can become, let's say specifically in the context of GFI, can anyone get in your business and become financially independent?
I wholeheartedly believe so. Just like I believe anybody can go to the gym and be in shape. I believe you don't have to have diabetes just because you have a genetic predisposition to diabetes. I believe you don't have to have high blood pressure just because they tell you got a genetic predisposition to high blood pressure. Because there was hundreds of thousands of generations that came before you that didn't have those conditions. It just happened now in the Industrial Revolution, right? So yes, you can be. But some of the things, we got to look at the programming, though. I believe everybody's destined. We're like, when you really think about it, out of all the adversity you had to go through just to be you, the one that's fertilized the egg to be birthed here. And as humans, shout out to Seth, when we were in Puerto Vallarta, he said, isn't it so unique that we're all, in the grand scheme of the universe, we're all experiencing life together right now? We're supposed to be here. You're supposed to be watching this podcast. You're supposed to reach out in my DMs. I'm supposed to miss it and catch you next week and respond to it. And then we connect on an interview. You're supposed to become wealthy. You're connecting with this because God's speaking to you. The spiritual world is speaking to you in some kind of a way, connecting us together. You just have to follow that. You have to use your basically your intuition and keep following what you feel in your heart is right. So I believe everybody should be in good shape. You come to America, I feel like the wealthy people in America are lean and the poor people are overweight. In other countries, the wealthy people are overweight and the poor people are lethargic and lean, right? So you're not supposed to be like that. You're supposed to be healthy and you're supposed to be in shape. Just because everybody around you isn't, doesn't mean you're not supposed to be. Go to the gym, put in the work. It's a matter of calories. And I'm just using this as a metaphor that I think everybody can understand. Calories, it's mathematical formula. And in our business, the reason you can win in our business is it's a mathematical formula. Math is based on science. Science is based on facts, and facts are absolute. So just like when we go to Las Vegas, I was having a talk with our team. I was like, it's a numbers game. It's a contact sport. The amount of people you contact dictate the results you're going to get. And it's the law of large numbers, the law. So if you get the laws to work in your favor, you're going to win. And the house always wins. So when it comes to casinos, the house always wins, right? And so always wins. So in our business, I realized a long time ago, I'm the house. The only way I can't win is if I close the windows and lock up the doors and don't run the numbers. So anybody can win, a 24-year-old punk kid like me, because I was willing to outwork the pretty people that thought they didn't have to do the numbers because they got the education, the corner office. I was willing to roll up my sleeves and run the numbers. And guess what happens? I found the people that I envisioned I was going to find for my business. So anybody can win. Can you persevere the numbers? Can you get your emotions out of it temporarily? Your family, every generation to come is going to thank you for it. And just put your head down and grind, and anybody can win. Will they, though? More than likely not. But that's what's going to make it so sweet when you win, because you realize you're the one that's willing to do what nobody else is willing to do, and you're still here to help them. I'm still here to help everybody. But I also realize, Steve, that not everybody's going to do it. And I'm okay with that. And that's one of the reasons why I think our industry pays us so much, because so few people are willing to become a leader and overcome their fear and do what they got to do to win. You make that decision, you're going to do it, and watch what happens. I'm gonna be interviewing you, Steve. We're gonna all be interviewing these.
I love it, man. I agree with you 100%. Well, it's just as we wrap up, Paul, and I love this. And again, before I forget to say, congratulations on all the success you've had in the past. It's been a pleasure and a joy to watch you just go wild over the last 20 years, and the things you guys are going to do at GFI, I know are going to break. You guys are going to break every record out there. I don't think there's any question about that. Just the final question: would you have any advice for any new or aspiring or emerging entrepreneurs, whether they're in the insurance business, or the team building business, or any other business that might help them out, especially the ones that are kind of struggling, self-doubt, the drill?
Yeah. Absolutely. I would say start with the end in mind. What do you want? Many people, clients, agents, I ask them, what are your goals? So many people, they think so realistic. We turned off our dream machines. We stopped dreaming. You got to start to dream again. You got to start to know what you want. What are you fighting for? Can you smell it? Can you taste it? Can you see it with your eyes closed? Because vision, you don't have to have your eyes open to visualize it. You don't have to actually to live it to visualize it. What's the idea? Like, what are you doing this for? And why? And what is happiness to you? And what would it feel like if you retired your mom? So all of a sudden, those calls aren't that bad anymore. When you realize your mom's going to have a job because your sibling isn't going to retire her, you're the only one that's going to retire her. Start with the end in mind. What are you doing this for? It's not a Ferrari. And even if it is, go for it. If you're going to help thousands of lives because you want a red Ferrari, there's nothing wrong with that. Right? So start with the end in mind and what you want, and then go find like-minded associations. One of the great things about our business is you get to build a team of the people you actually want to be around. There is no fake like, hey, saying things just to smile at them. No, everybody's real here. If you don't want them on your team and you wouldn't like them around your family, don't recruit them. Don't bring them onto your team. I love that. So find like-minded associations. One of the greatest things about GFI in our company is everybody's a like-minded association. We all understand what you're going through and everybody's willing to help. People that don't even make money on you will reach out to you and help you because I would be over there helping out them. And we all just want to help other people win. So what a great association. Find a great association of like-minded people. Find a running mate. When I initially started, Eric was my running mate. So when I was too tired to quote unquote go to the gym, get your butt up. Money never sleeps. Eric would wake you up. And when he wasn't, I'm in the gym. Eric's like, oh, I can't let my mentee beat me to the gym. And I'm metaphorically speaking. So we had a running mate making calls. We're both making calls together. I didn't want to be by myself making calls. We even hop on Zoom sometimes and we make calls together just so we're in an environment. Another thing, self-development, personal development. It's personal. Just like personal training is personal. Why are there so many darn machines at a gym when you only got 2 legs or 2 pec muscles? Because everybody's different, right? So maybe you got to work on self-development where somebody else has to learn on public speaking skills. Or maybe you got to learn on leadership where somebody else is already great at leadership. So get the books, audios, and associations that will create the self-development that you need in your life. And before you can physically meet with the associations like a Steve, this is an honor and a privilege, just so you know, if I didn't say that before, read his books and personify everything he's teaching, and all these winners that pour their hearts into books do. And then eventually they're going to be like, wow, there's somebody who actually is doing what I'm teaching, and that person becomes your association. I'm almost getting goosebumps just saying this right now, right? Don't expect immediate gratification. This is a crock pot process. This is a meat fall off the bone process. This is not a microwave. I live in a house right now, and I don't think we've used the microwave, but maybe 5 times in 8 years that I've lived here. I got a garden in the backyard because I don't want to eat packaged foods because instant gratification is the world that we live in now. That's the employee mindset. Go back to the old days of that becoming the farmer. And as you sow, so shall you reap, but you'll reap in a different season than you sow, but you'll also reap in multiples of what you sow. I got so many tomatillos outside and tomatoes outside, or I can go to Whole Foods and spend my whole paycheck getting tomatoes. Plant the garden. Don't expect instant gratification, and watch how you succeed. And then a couple final thoughts. Enjoy the process. And I'm so proud of who I was in those times where nobody joined, but I kept on trying to recruit. When nobody answered the phone, but I kept on making calls. One day you're going to look back and you're going to either regret it, you're going to enjoy the sacrifices that you did, or you're going to have to pay the price of regret. And I look back and I'm like, actually proud of myself. I guess I'm midlife. I'm only 45, so I got 5 more years, 6, maybe 10 more years to go before I'm actually midlife, in my opinion, starting with the end in mind. But I'm so proud. I'm like, wow, how many other young folks will be willing to do that? While all of you are going through the tough times in your business, I want you to realize how nobody else is going to do what you're going to do, and you're the tough one. You're the one for your family that's going to take them to the promised land. And enjoy the process. As I look back now, that stuff wasn't even hard. It just seems like it when you're going through it. Remember in high school when you went through something and it was so painful, but now that you're an adult, 45 years old, you don't even remember it anymore? Yeah, just realize that's going to be business. So enjoy the process. Enjoy the journey. I'm a mechanic, right? I'm not a mechanic, but I love building classic cars. And it's crazy. Like when I get all my classic cars are cherry and they're beautiful. Remember, I got my car stolen. I never forgot that. I got 3 back and I'm going to go build some more. I just got a new thing I'm building right now. And every time I build my car, Steve, and it's all perfectly running, I can't wait for something to like break so I can start wrenching on it again. Why? I found out it's not the destination. It's the process that I enjoy. I kind of like the burns. I like the scars. And I like the fact that when you pull up to the stoplight and everybody's like, they're giving you thumbs up and you're like, man, I built that. So don't ask for anything to be given to you. You go earn it yourself, right? Become of service to others. Think about, how can I serve others? Steve, you said it in the intro. How can I fix a problem? One of the reasons why our business does so well is people need financial help. Financial issues is a major, major problem and isn't going out of style anytime soon. So find a business that can and be of service to others. The customer always wins. Your agents always win. And one last thing, I think, or maybe a couple, think big. Don't be like Paul, who thought realistic. I mean, look what we're doing right now on Zoom. Who would have thought, if you had told somebody 75, 100 years ago, we're going to be talking and communicating on Zoom and looking at each other in live time, they would have thought you were crazy. If Thomas Edison said, well, I guess he had something to do with this too, because it's lit up, but we're going to light up the planet and there's going to be a light bulb that's going to light up the planet when everybody has torches, they would have thought he was crazy. Be the Thomas Edison of today, of your family. Think big, don't quit. One last thing, and I'll say this because my son, I coach a little flag football, and he plays basketball and sports. And one of the things that all the parents feel when their kids are playing sports, what do they want their kids to do? Be a little bit more aggressive. Stop being so passive. Don't be shy. Get that ball. Even the moms are on the side. Go for that ball. Get in there. Play aggressive. So my last comment to you would be, play aggressive. Get after this thing. Don't let your mom see you just putting your head down and being all shy. Make your mom proud. Make your dad proud. Make your kids proud. Let's put a chip on our shoulders, because people don't believe we're going to do it. People like you and I, we're not designed to go change the world. That's what they think. But they don't know you, and they don't know us, and they don't know why we were put on this planet. You got to find out why. So one of the greatest gifts I heard somebody say is the 2 times that change your life is when you're born. And then the second one is when you figure out why you were born. And this industry, this company, mentorship, introduced me to who I am and who I'm supposed to be. And I wouldn't have changed anything, Steve. So I welcome more adversity, because it only makes us stronger. So that's my advice to all the entrepreneurs. And go read his book. That book, I'm telling you, it's the greatest book out there, and it takes you to so many different avenues. Thank you, Steve, for just everything you've done in the self-development space, what you're doing for us, and your belief in us, man. It just means a lot. And it's crazy how your heroes become your associations at some point. Thanks again.
Well, I appreciate it. Appreciate the kudos on the book, Paul. And man, I'm pumped up. I'm ready to go after that speech. That was awesome. And I hope all the emerging, aspiring entrepreneurs are listening to this and listen to what Paul just said, because obviously you're right on the money. Anyone that's been an entrepreneur for 20 years knows what it's like to go through the tough spot and come out as a winner. Not the easiest thing to do, but it is rewarding. So I appreciate you being on the podcast, because I know it took us a while to get together, because I know you guys are traveling all over the country and you're crisscrossing here. And I hear you're going to be in Atlanta soon, which I'm pumped about, because I'm in just north of Atlanta. And so hopefully I'll be able to see you guys in action. It's always so much fun to be in a live meeting room with you guys, because you just come out of there so energized. It's so inspiring. Before I say this in the close, I just want to make sure that I'm getting this correct. And so correct me if I'm wrong, Paul. And if it's something that you want said differently, we can edit this out of the interview. But it sounded like to me that you said you talked about mentorship earlier in the interview, and then you made it sound like anyone could contact you and possibly be mentored by you in GFI. Is that what you're saying, or am I overshooting?
I am fully engaged, 100%. I do want to I have a lot of leaders, and maybe some people would be better matched up with some people, but I think I could be universally appealing. I'm hungry. I'm looking for the future giants of our hierarchy. I like to mentor them, teach them myself. I got my calendar open 7 days a week. My team knows, like, Paul wakes us up and puts us to sleep. Like, does he even sleep? So yeah, I'm looking. I'm actively in the hunt, looking for the next giants that I could maybe be a spoke in the wheel of their success. But if somebody out there is hungry, they're looking for mentorship and guidance and want to look at an amazing industry, I'll talk to you.
Wow. Okay. I just want to make sure I got that right, because that is a very unique offer that doesn't come along. Millionaires don't typically mentor people out of nowhere. I mean, that just, unless you got some kind of connection, it hasn't been my experience. Some once in a while you get lucky, but not usually. So that is a great offer, Paul. So once again, I really appreciate you being on. I know you guys are running like crazy. Congratulations on all the success. And I'm looking forward to just being a fan on the sidelines, doing whatever I can to cheer you guys on to the next great success I know that you're going to experience. So thanks again for being on, Paul. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Steve, and thanks for all you do.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye.
Guys, I just want to wrapping up here. I just want to close this out that if you're new as an entrepreneur and you're open to different businesses, I would contact Paul Hart. Okay. I'm telling you, millionaires don't just jump out and mentor people they don't know. It typically doesn't happen like that. I haven't seen that. I've been interviewing self-made millionaires now for over 40 years. It's the largest study, according to the Wall Street Journal. I have the largest study ever done with one-on-one interviews with self-made millionaires like Paul Hart. And that doesn't come along every day. So if you're looking at this thinking, hey, maybe I'm interested in what Paul is doing, and you can get him or one of his team to mentor you. And by the way, that mentorship costs nothing except hard work. So I don't want to belabor this, but I don't usually interview millionaires who say, yeah, email me, contact me, go to my YouTube page, and you can, and I might be able to mentor you, or I'll pass you to one of my top leaders and they'll mentor you. Like that, I just don't ever hear that. That's why I had to clarify it in the interview. So this is not a promotion. It's just a great opportunity. So Paul said his YouTube page is The Biz Athlete. I believe it was B-I-Z, The Biz Athlete. So check him out, Paul Hart, H-A-R-T. You can find him on LinkedIn, find him on Instagram as well. And if you're so inclined, seek him out for mentorship. If I was starting over and, in business, it was 40 years ago, boy, I would jump at something like that. Holy smokes, it's a chance of a lifetime. Holy mackerel. So anyway, with that, I appreciate you guys being on the show. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. Paul Hart's a great entrepreneur. GFI is a great company, and just really exciting to be associated, as Paul said, with guys like Paul Hart and Eric Olson and the other people that are just going places, man. These guys are on fire, and you just can't beat someone like that. It's just fantastic. So thanks for watching the podcast, and we will see you next time. Thanks for watching.